That one was spicy.
So the Warriors have to play 48 minutes.
I think it's going 7. I have it. I have the Nuggets in 7.
Ant-Man, Batman, Watchmen, Lakers at 5.
It's money time now.
Welcome back, YouTube, to the GOATcast podcast. And, let us know how you feel about that new intro. We got my man Ron Dog in the intro. We got King Speech, JB. We got the whole crew this time. So, let us know how the new intro tickles y'all's fancy. But welcome back. This is Big Nige of the GOATcast podcast. I got my man CW to my right. I got Ron Dog down below. How y'all boys doing today?
Going.
It's going. It's just started pouring down rain, so it's one of them nights or one of them evenings.
And the proverbial basketball gods were raining on the Dallas Mavericks parade because a couple of days ago we found out that Cooper Flag, the Dallas Mavericks will be waving the flag this year. Supposedly, if they're smart, they will take Cooper Flag with the first pick in the draft. They got the first pick in the draft, followed by y'all's boys, the Spurs. They got the number 2 pick in the draft, and so forth.
Cooper Flag about to go 2, man. Watch.
Nah.
Nico Harris is gonna fumble that, and then
we getting Giannis, so that's our ticket to Giannis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we'll definitely unpack a little bit of that as well. We'll talk about the second round a little bit. I know we missed last week. Timelines just weren't timelining, so we're going to touch on the second round, kind of go through that, and then we'll go from there. So, with Dallas having the number 1 pick, I'll start with Ron Dog. Should they take him? Because I think we all can agree that they will. How does he fit with this Dallas Mavericks roster as currently constructed?
Well, whenever Uncle Drew comes back healthy, having Cooper Flag with Anthony Davis would actually be pretty good because you could put him at the 3, Davis at the 4, Gafford or Lively at the 5, and then whoever they have at shooting guard can just be a fill-in spot, basically.
Okay.
It'd be nice, but I also saw something where Nico said that he would give up the number 1 pick if he could get Giannis, though. I also saw that somewhere.
I don't know about that one. What you got? What you got, CW? Before I weigh in, what you got?
Wow, Giannis and AD, that'd be redundant a little bit, but I mean, obviously they're going to draft Cooper Flag. If they don't, then Nico might as well just pack his bags and look on Indeed for something else. The thing is, like Ron Dog said, this will probably move Cooper to the 3 because I think we talked about it a couple nights ago when the lottery happened. Is that going to be a good fit for Cooper? Could be, should be. He's athletic enough where I think he can play the 3. AD can be the 4, Gafford, Lively 5, and then once Kyrie comes back, and I don't know what they're going to do with Clay, but maybe Clay stays, and I think they have a good little nucleus. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, that's why I put that in the thumbnail. It's kind of weird that Nico has death threats and all these other things for trading Luka, and now somehow the Dallas Mavericks, they're a pretty good market too. They're not a big market, they're not a small market, they're kind of in the middle. That they are getting the number 1 pick, so it's kind of you got to kind of think about that. They get I hate to say it like this, but they get another great white hope with Cooper. And he's a guy that can definitely boost that roster, that can definitely boost that franchise. And the luck swings Nico Harrison's way for the draft. So I think it's going to be they're going to pick him. He's going to be a solid addition. They're just going to have to make sure they get everybody in the right spots and kind of Jason Kidd's going to have to kind of experiment with them, but I think they're a good squad.
Couple things I'll add to Ron Dog's first point about potentially trading that pick to get Giannis. Even if that was on the table, I mean, you guys have seen the destruction of the second apron. I mean, y'all already saw what it did to the Phoenix Suns. You know, if you got 3 max players on one team, that basically just fizzles out the rest of your roster. Like your 3 dudes have to be absolute studs. And I'm not saying that the 3 of them couldn't, with AD, Giannis, and Kyrie coming back. Assuming he opts out of his deal, they're going to pay him a big bag. So just got to see what happens with that. But so I would caution them to look at the Phoenix Suns and before you make any big, decisions like that. But Cooper Flag's fit on them. I mean, he's definitely, I think he's a solid defensive prospect. We saw him his blocking prowess. We saw him sliding them puppies at Duke. We saw him being a solid playmaker. I think he can be a play finisher as well. Being with his 6'9", 6'10" frame. Definitely on the skinnier side, so definitely he's going to have to put NBA weight. But for him to fill these shoes, because he's going to get compared to Luka Doncic. Unfair or fair, however you want to call it, number 1 pick, coming there to basically be. He's going to be the next Luka, even though people are going to be a little, distant. Everybody loves Luka, and they're still, it's still, fresh for Dallas fans. But I just want you to. One of the things that Cooper Flag is going to have to, work on, he's going to have to work on that shot creation ability. Like if you are going to be the number 1, if you are going to be the driving force, for this team, if they're going to build around you, it's got to be a little bit better shot creation. We saw it in Duke where he had flashes of being a solid shot creator, but then you see in the Final Four game, you tell him to go get his own shot, he misses, and we see what happens from there. Also not the greatest ball handler. So if you decide to experiment lineups, because we know Jason Kidd likes to make big guards run the point, like he did with Giannis back when he was in Milwaukee, So, and we've seen AD even bring the ball up at times with the current Dallas Mavericks. So, all those things definitely going to play a factor into, what he looks like for this Dallas Mavericks squad. He's got plenty of time to grow, but I just caution that everybody should tailor their expectations a little bit, because he's not the best shot creator. He's not the best ball handler. And I think they're going to need to set him up in the short term until he builds on his shot creation and ball handling abilities and puts on more size. So, and I know you guys touched on this a little bit with the number 2 pick, potentially, getting you Giannis, because y'all are Spurs fans.
That's true.
Can you see a scenario? Because I think we all can agree that Dylan Harper's probably going to go number 2. Considering you have De'Aaron Fox already, would you leverage your number 2 pick? I mean, would you not try to get another solid piece like an Ace Bailey? Maybe what's his name? Ferns, Trey Johnson, probably maybe Edgecombe too. I mean, but you guys have some choices. Would you guys leverage that number 2 pick for a Giannis, or would you hold that pick and maybe go for somebody else?
I probably would want to go get Giannis to give us a little bit better rim protection, because, Wemby can do it, but those times whenever Wemby's not in there, it lacks a lot. Rebounding lacks, and then teams can try to take advantage. So if we had it to where Giannis and Wemby could split time sometimes, so that one can get a breather for a minute or 2 and then come back, I think giving up that second pick to get Giannis would be worth it. But if it happens, you just gotta wait and see.
Yeah. I think it's something to explore. I don't know if the Spurs will do it or even Giannis will agree to it. It would be a little tough to pair them two. We've seen how Giannis does with another, I guess, a guy that's used to being the first option in Damian Lillard, guy that wants to score and wants to have the basketball. They've had a little trouble getting that synergy at first, and they kind of got it, but not quite how you wanted them to get it. I think that would kind of be the same thing in San Antonio with Wemby, because obviously Wemby's their cornerstone player, and Giannis coming in and having to kind of be the second option. in that scenario, how will he get used to being, the second option on a team? That's going to be tough. And he needs the ball. He likes to have the ball in his hand. He likes to bring the ball down some. He at times monopolizes the ball. So I don't know if it's the best fit, because Wemby's a win now kind of guy. I could see them doing it, but not for the long term, for just to try to get them into playoff contention and kind of get them the ball rolling for that. So I could see them exploring it. I don't know if they'll do it. And what they have to give up is going to be paramount, because if you give up Stephon Castle, I don't think the fan base is going to be happy with that. I think he's another cornerstone player for you guys. I mean, he's not a superstar yet, but he's a guy that I could see becoming a star on the likes of a Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard's not a superstar, I don't think, but he's a star. So I think that they keep that young core and kind of, I mean, I could see him going for a what's his name? The next not Ace Bailey, but Harper. Even though they got quite a bit, they have a lot of wings and players like that, but I could see them going for that. Do they give up, what do they do with De'Aaron Fox? That's the key. So I mean, they have some good options, but I think if they want to win now, Giannis is definitely an option.
Especially with Wemby being still in his rookie contract. You're not in that 3 max spot. Yeah. So it gives you a little window to try to go, compete. I don't know how that looks for Giannis, but I know if you add him to that team with De'Aaron Fox making his money, you add Giannis's max money in there. Wemby would be up, I think, in about 2 years for a max, maybe 1 or 2. But regardless, you have a little window that you could potentially do something with that prior to crippling the rest of your team with the 3, maxes. But I digress. Nice little draft talk. We'll see how it goes on draft night. So let's get over to these Pacers, man. None of us predicted the Pacers to beat them.
Nah, Pacers kicked them in. Pacers kicked them in the mouth the whole series.
And I mean,
your man sad. Donovan Mitchell had to come back and sit down to just soak in those L's. So,
and it's unfortunate for Donovan Mitchell, because this is kind of looking very reminiscent of his days in Utah. You got the DPOY in Evan Mobley, you had the DPOY in Rudy Gobert. You had solid pieces on that Utah squad, but it's also the expectations were for some of those squads to ascend and go higher. And they just didn't, meet expectations. Same thing for this Cleveland team, number 1 team in the East, home court advantage, and you still fall short to a team that everybody picked you guys to beat in the Pacers. And I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I mean, the game 2 blunders, the inbound passes, Halliburton looking amazing. I mean, now I did not know that Garland was going to miss games 1 and 2. Had I known that, I might have tailored my pick a little bit. And obviously Mobley missing game 2, very integral to their defense, to their secondary playmaking. So got to understand that. Hunter as well, he missed game 2. That's another big piece off the bench. But I'm just going to look at it from both sides real quick. Max Strus, he sucks. Giving him 30+ minutes, I don't know how you justify that in 2025. He's a role player for a reason. I know you guys were depleted, but Max Strus, he cannot play 30+ minutes a game and give you meaningful minutes. Right? They got bamboozled by Miami. Miami, he looked great in his role. Could play extended period of time with a guy like Jimmy Butler, and it made him look really good. All he had to do was hit his shots. He didn't do that for Cleveland. For what reason, I don't know, but he sucks. Then you get Ty Jerome. Game 1, amazing. Games 2 through 5, he sucked. Giving me 2 points, 2 points, 7 points, 8 points. That's not enough. Especially when you're a potential 6-man of the year candidate. Like, you got to give me more than that. So he was not good. I know Darius Garland, he tried with that big toe injury. I understand. Playing with a messed up toe, I understand. It is not the greatest thing. But you're going to have to give me more than 14 and 4. At that point, you might as well just go back and sit back down, because that's not going to get it done. Jared Allen, What? What was he doing? 12 points and 7 rebounds a game? He should be at least a double-double machine. Like, I'm not saying go give me 20 and 10, but could you at least give me 18 and 11? Something? You know, having 9 points and 4 rebounds in a closeout game, like that's just not good. You know, so I say all that. Plus, Max Strus had an absolute donut in the closeout game. And I know everybody's going around and seeing the fact that he said, you know, if you're not ready to compete or come to work, you know, don't show up. And he proceeds not to show up and goes 0 for 9. Like, that's the epitome of just straight garbage. So all that to say, that man, Donovan Mitchell, he played his tail off. You couldn't really ask him to do no more. I mean, averaging damn near 30 plus points a game in that series. He did what he could, but clearly it wasn't enough. And just to simply go through the Pacers, Halliburton, amazing. You know, this overrated talk is definitely fueled him.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to continue to power through because he daggered them on the road, just daggered Cleveland, shot their hearts right out. You know, Nembhard, he's playing his thing. He's clearly shown he's a playoff riser. Got to give him all the love in the world. Siakam was solid. He wasn't as great as he was against the Bucks, but he was solid, and he gave them sizable punches. Like in game, I want to say it was game 3, where he was basically the only driving force. And I know they lost that game, but again, he was their main force, and he actually brought them back into that game from his playmaking and his timely shot making. So he was a pretty consistent force for them. We already know what Turner brings, shot blocking. You know, he was crashing the boards, fighting Mobley, fighting Allen, stepping out, bringing them from the basket, hitting those shots. Can't say enough about the guys like Toppin, McConnell, and even Thomas Bryant. So I just wanted to say that they wanted it more. They executed down the stretch better than Cleveland, and they're going to the conference finals because of it. Yeah. I'll start with CW. What are your reaction to this series?
Yeah, I think through these playoffs, we're learning that toughness is a key to winning basketball, because I feel like the Pacers showed a toughness. You talked about Obi Toppin and even Thomas Bryant. Those guys, they played tough. You know, they had the defensive player of the year in Evan Mobley. They had Jaren Allen, who's usually a walking double-double, and they were making him look like he's a pedestrian. He was a former All-Star. So I think we're seeing with them, and then you look at some other teams, the Knicks, we'll get into those teams later, but they're showing a toughness and a poise that is necessary in the playoffs. And I think that, you know, the Cavs they got punched in the mouth early. And I think that game too kind of just was the punch that, you know, kind of took all their win out, because, you know, Halliburton hitting that shot when they basically had the game in the bag was just, you know, that just, you don't come back from that. And they didn't come back from that. And that's why I picked the Pacers in 5, was because they just, you know, I think that overrated talk for Halliburton woke him up, and he's playing like the all-star we saw last year, the guy that got that Indiana Pacers team to the NBA Cup, the guy that got them to the conference finals. I mean, he's playing like that. And when he plays like that, he makes everybody on the court better. He's a great point guard. And with that, you know, when you have that kind of play, you win games. And that's what they did. They showed a lot of toughness, and they executed when it mattered, and they won. So, you know, kudos to the Indiana Pacers. They've tricked a lot of people. And I wouldn't say they're not a lock for the NBA Finals. I'm just saying that you know, they should get some props going into these conference finals.
All right, Ron Dog.
All right, so for the side of Cleveland, first with Mitchell, sucks after game 1. During game 2, he got hurt. He fought through injuries for the rest of the series. It was very tough for him. And the last 8 years, he's had 0 conference finals appearances. That's just rough for him, because he's had, like Nigel said, multiple times where he could win at least 2 times this year. If they actually didn't get injured and played right, they could have won. And then the Pacers, the Cleveland left them open for too many open shots. It was ridiculous. whenever I saw game 4, Miles Turner did a step back, waited, and shot open three, I knew that this series was over. The Pacers had them outclassed, outmatched. Ball movement was superior. Cleveland, if it didn't run through Mitchell, it wasn't going to happen. That's about it because their offense was just terrible. Cleveland's offense was horrible. I've never seen a number one team get dismantled like that. There's not much else to say about them.
I think also Donovan Mitchell, I think he's now the third highest scorer out of people who have not made a conference finals. I think it's Embiid. Embiid's like close to 30. I think Dominique Wilkins was number 2 at like, I think 27, 26. And then Donovan Mitchell's right there with like 24 points per game. So it's unfortunate, man, that your name is now attached to that. So you still got time to turn things around, but
I think they said Mitchell's like in the top 5 of most points per game during the playoffs too. I think they pulled that stat up during game 2 or something. That he has like top 5 for most points per game behind Michael Jordan. Jordan's was like 31 something and his was like around 28. Something like that. So that's a good stat. It's just once your team can't convert, I mean, it's a pointless stat at that point.
Yeah. Speaking of not converting and underwhelming performances, let's go ahead and jump over to
Lord,
Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
It's this series, man. And I'm gonna touch on the Jason Tatum thing, but just wow, man. New York. Like, and this is where I know King's Speech is somewhere tap dancing his tail off right now. Wow, what a time to be a Knicks fan, man. Because what they've done to Boston this series, and low key what Boston has done to themselves, it's crazy. But I don't want to take anything away from New York. You know, they've competed, they've executed. You know, they're making Boston take the shots that they shouldn't take, but they're taking them nonetheless.
Yeah.
And so I got to give New York love there. They've been doing their thing. I think Boston, I'm just start with Boston. Obviously, I think they settled too much. I'm not going to blame them for shooting a bunch of three-pointers because that's kind of who they've been all season. So I'm not going to criticize them now when I thought that they looked like the best team in basketball and who I picked to win the championship this year. So, but I think, again, like the range of their threes, like they're taking, step backs, 40-foot step backs, whether it was Tatum, Brown, Derek White would get a deep catch and shoot three, Peyton Pritchard, just not good, not good shots when they can, drive the ball. And then when they were driving the ball, they really weren't converting their layups. Like it was looking very reminiscent of a terrible YMCA pickup run. So, to that extent, then it's like, maybe you should shoot more threes, but then they start missing those. And it's like, well, maybe you should. But, so again, shot selection, the shot diet wasn't the best for me. I think Kristaps Porzingis, absolutely garbage. I mean, he's not giving them anything this series. I mean, they're talking about being a big 5. I can't tell. Kristaps is absolute butt cheeks this series. I mean, giving me a donut, giving me 8 points afterwards, 5 points, 7 points, shooting 20% from 3. I mean, he's putrid. He's putrid out there. 7'4", giving me 4 rebounds a game, consistently 4 rebounds each game. It's not enough. He's basically unplayable. Like they've put switches where Jalen Brunson was guarding him, and he's trying to shoot face-up jumpers and missing over a guy that's a foot and more shorter than him. Like it's just terrible. Kristaps Porzingis at this point, I can see why they're playing Al Horford so much, and I think I know Kristaps Porzingis is kind of like got some sickness or whatever going on. Just stop playing him. He's just unplayable right now. Literally, he cannot give you anything. No rim protection whatsoever. Just terrible. I mean, I know Jason Tatum went down. Now, wish him a speedy recovery. He's been pretty mid this series. I mean, he had a great game 4, prior to going down, but he had 42. He was cooking them. Like, I honestly think that even though the momentum was still in New York's favor, I don't know. Tatum was looking like he was going to drop a 50 bomb, and they could have tied the series, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. Other than that game 4, he really looked pretty mid this series, all things considered. And then, Jaylen Brown just hasn't been that good either. Inefficient. Again, the shot diet, he can go left, but then when he goes left and tries to finish left, he's looking for a whistle instead of just pushing through it. So you know, the big guns really weren't gunning for the Celtics, and it's just unfortunate. And I think Drew Holiday is also banged up as well, so he can't give you but so much.
Yeah.
Touching on the Knicks, Jalen Brunson's an absolute stud. He shows up when it matters. I'm not saying every game he's played this series has been a very good Jalen Brunson game, but it's those fourth quarters, it's the execution, and it's the attention that he draws from that Boston Celtics defense that allows a guy like Mikal Bridges to go scoreless in quarters 1 through 3 and then put an absolute performance on them in the fourth quarter and in overtime. You know, OG's been a pretty steady hand for them. Got to give him respect. And then Towns, you know, he's been up and down, but when they made the adjustment for him to attack Al Horford in the post, use his strength, use his speed, and use his size against him, you know, it's definitely done some things for them. And last person I'll bring up is what's his name? The center.
Josh Hart?
No, the center.
Mitchell Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson. He's been an absolute difference maker in this series, literally being the most physical, the most gritty center on the court whenever he's on the floor. I know his free throw percentage is abysmal. Don't get me wrong with that.
Aka Mitchell.
But when you foul a guy like him and you put him on the line, put New York in the bonus, that allows guys like Brunson and OG and Towns to put pressure on the rim and make the refs blow that whistle. So, you know, can't say enough about them. They still got work to do. They still got to finish Boston off. But I've been very impressed from what I've seen from the New York Knicks. And I'm going to kick this one over to Ron Dog to start. What are you thinking about this series?
All right, so I am going to start with Boston. You know, first two games, 25 for 100 from three-point. At that point, you need to make some plays for your stars to try and go inside. Those guys are making you shoot those threes for a reason because they rather you take that than try to take a bucket inside. So that is just during the series, I was appalled seeing that many threes. Besides that, Al Horford, Chris Porzingis, Peyton Pritchard, they were all counterfeit. They were counterfeit during this series.
Yeah.
As much talk as I heard about, starting 5 plus Peyton Pritchard, the best team, the best lineup in basketball. Okay, so let's talk about game 4. So Tatum and White at halftime. I think Tatum had 25. Derek White had 23. Derek White finished with 23 points. Did not score another bucket after halftime. That's horrible. That's just terrible. That's terrible. And then Al Horford with Chris Porzingis couldn't board to save their life. Towns was killing it on the boards by himself against those two. And then it's like Nigel said at the beginning of this playoff. Porzingis, he's iffy about being well during the playoffs. Nigel called it. Because what happened? Game 2 or something? He had an illness out. And then Brown, you know, it's just like people said in the past, he's not very consistent with scoring. This man this man has a left hand, he just refuses to use it. And then now I'm going to kick it over to the Knicks. Fourth quarters, that's why Jalen Brunson was clutch man of the year because he helps his team come back in the clutch. And then Bridges and OG, they said during the playoffs right now, they are the best front court defensive duo. They have like a 97 point something rating defensively. That's crazy. Game 1, OG was getting buckets and then getting stops, making Tatum shoot horrible shots, getting a backdoor late to help take the lead and stuff. And then Bridges, game 1 and 2, back-to-back defensive stops to win the game. He is their Iron Man. It don't matter if he's playing 40 to 53 minutes a game. He is still going to be the same. And then Mitchell Robinson, as you guys are talking about, there was, I think it was game 2. Jason Tatum got the switch for a last-second bucket. And then Mitchell Robinson stopped him, forced him over to the short quarter corner, and then that's whenever Bridges got that stop to win them a game. It's just Boston had too much hype this year, and then that's what killed them. I think they got too cocky because they whooped the Knicks the whole regular season, but whenever it mattered, the Knicks showed up and showed out. But they have to finish it, just like Nigel said. We have to see tonight if they can finish the job. Just like how Kobe used to say, "Job ain't finished yet."
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So yeah, that's why I picked the Boston Celtics. I picked them in 6. Obviously, they can't win in 6 now. So and now they've lost a key member of that team in Jason Tatum. He's got an Achilles tear, so he's already been in surgery for that. So he'll be out for quite a while. I just think this comes down to coaching. If you're a great coach, you see what's happening. You see what you guys are not doing well, and you get that clipboard out and you do your X's and O's, and you create something that can work to get you guys some easy baskets. Everything for the Celtics look like it's difficult. For the first 3 quarters, it looks like they're way over that the Knicks. They're the best team on the court, but then that fourth quarter comes and they're trying to do the same things. It's not working. And then the Knicks kind of slow the game down, make it a half-court game. Brunson is, of course, the clutch player of the year. He's able to hit shots. And then, as Ron said and as Big Nice said, Brunson can get the other guys going in that same moment because so much attention is on him because they know he's the guy that's going to likely take the shot. But when he doesn't, he can get it to Mikal Bridges. He can get it to OG. He can get it to Cat. So, I mean, these are things that coaches should zero in on and be able to combat in this situation, but they're not. And that's why they're down 3-1. And that's why they'll probably be going to Cancun tonight after they play tonight, don't they? I think.
Yeah.
I believe
They play tonight.
Yeah, I think tonight I think is a done deal for the Boston Celtics. I mean, they lost their leader in Jason Tatum. Even if they did somehow come back and win the series, I think it's over either way. And I think it comes down to we can give them credit for what they've done all season, what they did last season. But, when it's time to play, they got to play. And they've got to strategize, and they've got to realize what they're not getting and what they could get if they tried harder. And they're just not getting it. And I think the Knicks, like I said, with the Pacers, are playing them very tough. They're playing physical defense. They're, getting into them. They're going at them. They're not scared of them. And for that reason, Boston is kind of shrinking where I thought the Knicks would be kind of outmatched. They're not shrinking. They're actually going at Boston, and Boston's the one that's, doesn't know what to do. And that's why they're going home. I believe in 6. Well, no, this will be 5. I believe they're going home in 5. They might get a spirited, effort from the Boston Celtics tonight, but I think they're done either way. And kudos to the Knicks and Thibodeau. They can get a rematch with the Indiana Pacers and hopefully get to the, NBA Finals.
All I gotta say though, Jaylen Brown, you better show up. Because management is looking, because you're gonna be without Tatum for the next year and some change.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your time. Y'all can lose this game, but you better show up, Jaylen Brown, because if not, there's going to be some very interesting conversations this offseason, and his name might be getting brought up.
Mm-hmm.
They say Giannis is on the move, so hey, JB,
you think they're going to break up? You think they're going to break up that Celtic core? They're going to have to soon because they won't have the money to pay them. So do they start early or do they wait and see?
Just saying, Ron Dog said it. They might be counterfeit. That championship might be fool's gold. The way the Knicks have been making them look. Even Orlando was making them sweat. So hey, they look good in the regular season, but hey, I'm just saying, Jaylen Brown better show up. So,
hey man, our good friend Justin was saying that I was cracked for saying that the Knicks could make them sweat. I'm just saying,
doing more than sweating right now. They panting frantically over there. So
they're getting the gentlemen
fans have gave up. They gave up. I damn
Yeah,
well know they did.
they're getting the broom and they're putting a gentleman's nice little suit on to sweep them Celtics out of there right now.
So let's kick it over to the next team on the list. Got the Nuggets, man.
Man.
Oh,
Man.
brother, the Denver Nuggets. I'm gonna let Ron Dog start with this one. I'm gonna let Ron start with the Nuggets. Are the Nuggets running out of gas, and what are your thoughts about them this series?
They are definitely running out of gas. I can't remember if it's game 1 or 2, but they wanted to run a zone against OKC, and OKC destroyed the zone. They freaking literally made it to where Jokic had to shoot the ball. They were cutting off every possible pass to try to score. That team that game was making Jokic beat them. Jokic had to beat them himself because he wasn't getting no help. And then even whenever he did get a nice open pass, it didn't really go in. The only consistent shooter that game was Aaron Gordon, but even him, it's way too late. They had 87 at half. The most ever in a half. That's a record. I just think Nuggets probably aren't going to win another game. Oklahoma's probably going to finish it out tomorrow. Denver just needs to reevaluate during the offseason. They have to get some more scorers. Some people who can actually create their own stuff and not just wait on Jokic. OKC, young team, they are more hungry, they are more motivated. They have the fire and passion right now. Nuggets don't look like it.
CW, what you got for this?
Well, I'm a Jokic fan, so it kind of hurts to see Jokic just kind of they just taking him out of this series. I mean, they got bodies. I mean, Minnesota showed you what to do against Jokic last year, and when you throw bodies at him, multiple bodies, it wears him out, and he does look like he's out of gas. Jamal Murray, ever since last season, has been extremely hit and miss, and when he's the definitive Robin to Jokic's Batman, he's they're a well-oiled machine. But when Jokic has nobody to turn to other than right now Aaron Gordon, who seems to be the best option too for the Nuggets, you're kind of in trouble, because when you got to count on Aaron Gordon to get your points, that's not the best recipe for winning, especially if it's a young, hungry team like the OKC Thunder. Now, I've been anti-OKC all season because I've thought they were they kind of shrink under pressure. That's what I said. They went to the NBA Cup, shrunk under pressure last year against Dallas. They shrunk, but they are showing that they have some, they have some poise to them, and they can tough out wins. And I really feel the last two games they've shown that they are legit contenders for the championship. Do I think they win this? Yes, I think they're just a little too much for the Nuggets, and the Nuggets just cannot count on Michael Porter Jr. or Russell Westbrook. Those two guys just, you'll get one good game from one of them, and then it'll go vice versa, or just like the last game, they got no good game out of either one. So Jokic needed some help, and even Jokic has not been the most complete player throughout this series, and this is helping SGA's case. Even though SGA has, he hasn't been phenomenal, this has been a tough series, and the last game last night was really good, really great. So the teams are showing that they're elite level teams, but it's just OKC just has so many players that can put on the court that can produce, and the Nuggets just don't. So like Ron said, they got to retool this season. They got to get some guys that they can play big minutes and big moments, and they don't have that right now. So unfortunately, I think that OKC is going to take this. I picked Denver in 6. That's not going to happen. And I think that OKC will get to the conference finals. I think this is going to be a solid conference finals. We'll talk about the other teams next, but I think this is OKC's series to lose or to win.
Are the Nuggets running out of gas? Yeah, I think they're running out of gas, and a lot of their players are just running on trash. So, you know, can't say enough about Jokic. Not gonna spend too much time on him. Dropping 40 bomb in game 1 and now 40 bomb in game 5. They have definitely slowed him down. They've definitely frustrated him. They've, gotten up in him. They've thrown multiple bodies at him. Isaiah Hartenstein's got quick hands, so he can strip him. He can play the passing lanes. He can body him up. You got Chet as another shot blocker. He's not physical, but he's long, so he can bother some of those push shots that Jokic shoots. Things of that nature. So, Jokic, can't say enough about him. I mean, his free throw shooting this postseason hasn't been the best. His 3-point shooting hasn't been the best either. They've honestly just been daring him to shoot those. And in the past, he would have made them. But for this postseason run, he just really hasn't been effective out there.
He wasn't great last year either.
Yeah, so you have all that. I mean, Jamal Murray's hit and miss, but it's the others, man. The difference from this series, it's the others. It's not even about Jamal Murray. It's not about Nikola Jokic. Michael Porter Jr., God bless. I know his shoulder is hurt, but stop playing him. Coaching. I understand, man. He's 6'10", he's a big body, but if he doesn't move his feet, if he can't get a rebound because he can't bend his arm over his head, why is he playing so much minutes? And then I understand people are going to come and say, well, who else are they going to play? I got no argument for that, because when Christian Braun is hit or miss, and then he had a stinker. He didn't do anything in game 5. Russell Westbrook, they need those guys to contribute so it can take pressure off of somebody like Michael Porter Jr., where you don't have to put him in the last minutes of the game because he's not going to do anything. But when Russell Westbrook's playing like garbage and Christian Braun he's just nowhere to be found. Peyton Watson was abysmal. You just don't have anything. And then you have DeAndre Jordan, who is serviceable. You can put him in for a couple minutes at least. You don't want to put him in, so you run Jokic to the ground. I mean, it's not a recipe for winning. You have to rely on Aaron Gordon to be a knockdown sniper, a la of Black Mamba-esque energy. Anytime he shoots the ball, you think it's going in, whether it's a mid-range, a three-pointer, layup, whatever. He's just been looking unstoppable at times in this series. He didn't really show up in game 5 either, but do I think Denver will lose this series? I think they can bounce back and win game 6. I think the whole King's Speech heart of a champion thing will come back out, but I just think game 6 is where they're going to put their final stand on things, and they probably get embarrassed in game 7. It's probably going to be a absolute beatdown of a game. But I think they will hold their ground in game 6 and, come out and kind of punch OKC back in the mouth for one good fight. And then bringing up OKC, I think one thing that Denver has shown about OKC is the fact that Shea's playmaking is to be desired. When you force him to basically, you're going to beat me, he will take shots, and he can kind of shoot them out of games at times. And I remember game 4, he almost did. And that was a really close game. It was an ugly game. If you guys watched, good Lord, it was
that was a low scoring game.
Yeah.
That was a bunch of construction workers just going out there and just laying waste to that basketball court, because it wasn't nobody making nothing.
Yeah.
But I mean, and Jalen Williams, I mean Jalen J-Dub, whoa. Game 4 J-Dub, whoa. I mean, some of his shots were barely drawing iron, but needless to say, he hasn't really had the best series. But he did play pretty solid in game 5 as well. But they have shown there's a recipe that you can force Shea to take 30 shots. He might make 16, 15, 17 of them, but you limit the Jalen Williams. You limit the Chet Holmgrens to only having 8, 9 shots. Isaiah Hartenstein's only going to get about 5, 6 shots on a good day. So, I mean, you can limit them, and that's a recipe to beat them. It just sucks that Denver doesn't have any depth to, execute said game plan. And Teron's point about the zone, OKC, for as good as they shoot the ball, sometimes they are a bit streaky. And to get Denver out of that zone, they have to torch them. More specifically, that short corner where Jokic has to kind of play the difference. they've been able to live with some of those shots. I mean, game 5, it didn't work out for them because Lou Dort turned into Steph Curry in the fourth quarter. And you had literally Jokic on an island guarding Lou Dort. And Lou Dort was actually being able to make him pay. And he's been abysmal this entire postseason shooting the ball. Defensively, he's fine. Shooting wise, good God. I'm surprised he's still touching the floor at certain points in this series. But anyway, I say all that because the depth in OKC is definitely proven. Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, they can come in and they can spell for the other guys, the J-Dubs, when they don't shoot the ball well. Even Chet Holmgren's, when he's not shooting the ball well, you can substitute these versatile wings in there and they can get it done. That's what Denver does not have, and that is what is the difference in this series. Shea is all world. Jalen Williams is solid. I don't know if he's a proven number 2 option still to this day, but he's definitely showing up, putting pressure on the rim. He's doing what he needs to do. I think the Thunder's going to win this in 7, but I really think if Denver just had 2 solid bodies they could bring out there, I don't think that we'd be talking about the Thunder in the same manner. Yeah. I just think Denver just outmanned. They just don't have enough.
But I think the Thunder during the offseason made it to where their roster was locked in to go the distance because they got Alex Caruso, they got Hartenstein. They got the double bigs to get the boards spaced out. And then just in case if Lou Dort gets into foul trouble, you're going to bring in Alex Caruso, who is just as good as playing defense and stealing the ball. And then he is a little bit more streaky than Lou Dort at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what hurt Denver was the rookie. I cannot remember the name. Sorry. But the rookie that got hurt, I believe got hurt in Summer League. That was supposed to kind of be a big that could, in spot minutes, could back up Jokic and could be, that athletic big that they can put out there to get rebounds and to do some of the things that they miss when Jokic isn't out there. He got hurt for the season. So losing him, I think, kind of messed up some of their plans. But yeah, they definitely have to. They have to really look at this team and reconstruct it a little bit because when Jokic goes out, what do they have? DeAndre Jordan hasn't been good since his Clippers day, and he was only what he was because of Chris Paul. Let's be real. So, you got to get some kind of backup that can really back up Jokic. And Aaron Gordon does the best he can to kind of be, the big to do the things for Jokic when he's out, but he's just not that guy. So it's unfortunate, but my question really quick to you guys is the winner of this series, the winner of the NBA championship.
I can't summarily say that the winner of this series will go on to win the championship because Minnesota looks really legit. Like, I'm not even sure the winner of this series will make it out of the conference finals, personally. If Minnesota, you get that version of Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, I think they could I think they can punch their ticket to the NBA finals against even a team like the OKC Thunder. So, I mean, they've already shown they can beat Denver, which was honestly a better version of Denver than this version of Denver. So I can't summarily say that.
Yeah. I can't say yet. I have to see. At the end of this round, I might get a better idea, but it just seems like if you're going to want to go to the finals and win, you're going to have a double big lineup. That's the only lineup that's been working through the playoffs. You are going to have a double big. I know the Wolves. Randall's not technically big, but he's like 6'9", 6'10", right? I mean, like
he's 6'9".
He's playing good basketball.
Okay, yeah, but Randall can guard the secondary bigs and help rebound with Rudy, so that's what's helping them. And then if that 4 is too big of a big, Randall's just gonna step back and shoot a 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's what really killed the Nuggets is that they didn't have a secondary big to help rebound, help take away the scoring load. Because that's what every other team really has is a secondary big to help out.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go ahead and get to the last series or lack thereof, unfortunately.
I really didn't like watching this series.
Warriors Timberwolves, man. I'll go ahead and say this. It's unfortunate having Steph Curry go down the manner that he did with the hamstring. I think he had like 13 points in 13 minutes in game one. He was primed to absolutely terrorize the Timberwolves. Just the coverage on him just wasn't what I thought it should have been. I don't know. It just wasn't good. But needless to say, they don't have to worry about Steph Curry no more, at least until as early as game 6 is when he can come back. But I'm not sure they'll survive long enough to make a game 6. I'll just say this for the Warriors side of things. Brandon Bajemski, he sucks. He sucks. I'm sorry. I know I'm going around saying certain people suck, but they're not playing good playoff series. I mean, Brandon Bajemski, geez Louise. He must think he's got the Jordan Poole, ilk in his step, because he's trying things, turning the ball over, being left wide open and just barely hitting rim. It's just like, why? Why is he on the floor and not Kuminga? Now, I know Kuminga ended up getting some burn in this series, and he's shown you give him, meaningful minutes, he can produce, which again is still a head scratcher. You had Pajemski playing meaningful minutes against the Rockets where they were taking you to the distance when you could have had a guy like Kuminga in there sooner than later. That's neither here nor there. Moses Moody, again, he's been basically played off this series. When he can't shoot, solid defender, but if you can't shoot, you're a liability in this league. So both of those guys have just not been very good. Draymond Green and his antics, hey, you take them, take it with a grain of salt. You just got to roll with it. Draymond's not going to give you much any points. He's going to play his tail off on defense, make some really nice playmaking plays, but I don't know if his antics are really worth it anymore, especially with Steph being, susceptible to injury. Jimmy Butler could go down at any point like he did, against the Rockets for that stretch, and then he came back. But like Draymond Green, like he's just not the same impact as before. He can look impactful against the Rockets because they're young, because they're not that big, bigger than the Warriors, but again, not as overwhelmingly big as the Minnesota Timberwolves. So he can kind of play and look small out there. And his impact can be, taken for granted. Jimmy Butler, Jesus, man. Jesus. Playoff Jimmy, when I thought of playoff Jimmy, like I'm thinking he's about to rock this arena to the kingdom come. And then he comes out in game 4, 9 shots. Like, in what world is Jimmy Butler going to take 9 shots in a pivotal, and I mean a pivotal playoff series game? Like, I could understand him shooting 9 shots with Miami when he was trying to, sell his way out of Miami, but a playoff game, I would have never picked that. So my question would be like, what the heck is going on with his mind? Like, is he checking out already? Like, are we seeing Diva Butler again? I don't know, because I know he didn't come here to carry the load. He's supposed to be, the Robin to Steph's Batman, but that's not happening. Maybe he'll come out and prove me wrong, but he didn't look very good in game 4. And if that's any indicator of how he's going to be game 5, they can just go ahead and get ready for Cancun. Got to give that man Buddy Hield some love. He's been shooting the heck out of the ball. Can be a little inconsistent at times, but he's definitely probably their most reliable shooter as of this point on the floor. So got to give him his love, and he's competing on the defensive end. Quickly, on the Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards looked pretty putrid the first few games of the series, like absolutely dog water, piss poor. He's since turned around, especially game 3, coming alive in that second half when they needed him. I think finishing with about 30 points. And he obviously doubled down in game 4, absolutely started torching the Warriors. Julius Randle, having a big pivotal triple-double in game 3, obviously following that up with another 30-piece in game 4. Those two have been looking like a very solid tandem, and you have the requisite parts around. McDaniels, the Naz Reid's coming off the bench and lighting you up. Rudy Gobert's doing what he can do on the glass. Not much from Dante DiVincenzo, but Alexander Walker, even though he's been pretty piss poor this postseason as well, he's shown up in some big moments in this postseason. So give them a lot of credit. They're defending their tails off. They're making it uncomfortable for a guy like Jimmy Butler, who's basically a one-man wrecking crew. Got to show love to Kuminga because he is making this Minnesota defense sweat a little bit, but those two is not going to be enough. They're going to need more from the other guys to make this series draw out to even a game 6. but I think it's going to be over. I think Minnesota's got too much, and Wolves in 5. Don't know why I'm saying that, but wow, Wolves in 5. Wow. All right, CW, what you got for me?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much broke it down. Sadly, at 36, the Warriors still go as Steph Curry goes, and they just don't have the firepower to get it done against a really good. I feel like we kind of slept on the Minnesota Timberwolves going into the playoffs. We figured that the Lakers was just too much for them, Luka and LeBron. So we kind of, cast a shadow over them. Now they jumped that hurdle. Now they have the Golden State Warriors, Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry. So they're showing that they should games they're supposed to win, they're winning. And unfortunately, like you said, Jimmy Butler is not the playoff Jimmy we are used to seeing. He just doesn't have that second guy. I mean, he doesn't have that guy that can kind of take some of the pressure off of him. And he's not always the greatest number one option. Even with the Miami Heat, he was a solid number one option, but you've had Bam to kind of fill in. You can't count on Draymond Green for that. Kuminga, if Steve Kerr would just give him some confidence, might be a solid number two guy for that Warriors team. But he's in the lineup one night and the next night you don't see him. So I just think this is a tale of unfortunate events. The basketball gods don't want us to see the full Warriors versus Minnesota Timberwolves. This would have been the perfect, we're talking about the legend killer and Ant-Man. He's taking out a bunch of legends. He gets an asterisk for this one if Steph doesn't return. So, he could have added to his lore, but unfortunately he couldn't because Steph went down. But yeah, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to move on. They're just a better team. They have all their pieces, and as long as they got a great coach. Chris Finch is a great coach. So, it's the Warriors to win. I mean, the Timberwolves to win. I think they're going to do it. They're not taking the Warriors lightly, and the Warriors just don't have enough right now, unfortunately.
Rondo.
So Chuck was talking about, we slept on the Wolves. That's because during the regular season, Randall and Rudy weren't getting along. Rudy was sitting 3 seconds. Him and Randall were jarring back and forth, saying, "Oh, you got to give me the ball. You got to give him the ball." But I think after they finished off the season, they got more that they got more in gel. They knew what was expected of both of them. I'm getting tired of seeing Rudy Gobert get second chance rebounds against the Warriors. It kills me. It's hard to watch. Like, it literally kills me to watch him just continue to get them offensive rebounds and then throw it out to Edwards, Nas Reed, those guys. I mean, like, I want the Warriors to fight, but it just seems like since Curry went down, they've just given up.
Too small.
Yeah, they're too small. And then, like the last game, Butler and Buddy Hield, they only have 14 apiece as the top scorers. You're not going to beat the Wolves like that.
Mm-mm.
You're not going to beat them like that. The Wolves are definitely the dark horse in the West, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They are a team that people did not see coming.
Mm-mm.
Do you think, because I know I was kind of leaning to this, but do you guys think that this Timberwolves team has enough to capture a championship this year?
Just depends.
I think if the stars align, they can. I think depending on who comes out the East, if it's the Knicks, I think they'll have a tough time with the Knicks. I think they match up pretty good with the Pacers. I think they can run with them. The Pacers, of course, like to get out there and run. They have size, but so does Minnesota. I think they could. I mean, I think the NBA would be, Adam Silver is probably, he don't have any hair, but if he had some, he would be pulling it out because, you're praying that the Knicks get through and you have a big market potentially in the finals. But if not, you got a bunch of small market teams that, you know, that aren't the most popular teams either, that will probably be heading into that finals. And I would love to see the ratings for this NBA finals, because it's going to be really interesting as they move away from TNT and go back to NBC.
Let's pump our brakes for a second. They have to still get past Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but OKC is they're a small market team too, you know. So
Oh yeah. And then like the other good thing is that everyone who's competing for a ring right now has not had one ever or in years.
yeah, the Knicks has been decades.
So long ago. So long ago.
It almost feels
Forever.
like centuries since the Knicks
Yeah.
won one. So
Probably like the 70s, right?
it was, yeah, I think it was the 70s.
I think it's been about 50 years since they won.
Yeah.
So, you know,
If the
King's
Knicks
Speech
win
would
it
probably
all,
been able to tell us.
if
Oh,
the
yeah,
Knicks
King's
win
Speech
it
will probably
all, that nice city of New York is going to be trashed. Trash everywhere. All 5 boroughs.
If the Knicks win this, it's going to be, oof. You're not going to hear the end of it from a lot of Knicks fans. You would not hear the end of.
Oh no, trust
and
me.
Stephen A. Smith, he's going to be unbearable if the New York Knicks win a championship.
Oh yeah, no, trust me. We have a Knicks fan as a friend. He is already talking gritty to our Celtics fan.
I wouldn't call him a true Knicks fan, but I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
he used to like them when they had Carmelo, so he's just followed the team ever since then. But a true Knicks fan, I wouldn't go that far. But you know, that's going to wrap up today's show. You know, appreciate everybody for pulling up to the live stream, and you know, let us know down below. You know, your thoughts on the Pacers. Can they win it all? Do you got the Knicks taking out the Celtics tonight? You got the Nuggets, you know, coming to a halt by the OKC Thunder. You got the Thunder taking them out in 6, 7. Do you got potentially Denver upsetting them and going out to the conference finals? You know, can the Warriors force a game 6 to get Curry back? You know, and maybe even a game 7. You know, comment down below your thoughts on these series. You know, how you feeling about Cooper Flag to the Mavs? You know, if you're a team like Charlotte, who's got what, the 4th pick?
Spurs.
So I mean, yeah. If you know, if you're a team like Charlotte, can you guys get Ace Bailey? You know, do you guys want something like that? You know, comment down below your thoughts on, you know, the draft, Cooper Flag, and all thing else. As always, you know, appreciate CW for pulling up. Appreciate Ron Dog as well, and you know, we gonna be back real soon. So stay tuned to the playoffs and come back next week for the GOATcast podcast. We out.